Mr. Michel Jarraud, please join me here. Michel, I very often say to him that he's the honorary chair and the grandfather of ISDR, has been a very important element in the growth of ISDR family. Please.
Thank you very much, Margareta, for reminding me that I'm a grandfather. Excellencies, ladies, gentlemen, dear colleagues, I would like, first of all, to thank Margareta for inviting me to say a few words. And indeed, I'm very proud to be able to address you on the occasion of the 10th anniversary of ISDR. Actually, I was involved for many years in the IDDR, the decade for natural disaster reduction. And I was involved in the creation of ISDR, and I'm very happy to see that many of the expectations in this creation have turned out to be realities, although we all appreciate that we need to go much further. It's just the start. But some of you may remember when ISDR the decision to set up ISDR was made, there were lots of discussion because in IDDR there's a letter N, natural disaster. And ISDR is the international strategy for disaster reduction. Why did we drop the letter N, this reference to natural? Actually, it's very easy, and I'm very happy with that. It's because hazards, most of them are natural, but disasters are not natural. We can do something about it. We cannot prevent a hurricane from forming. We cannot prevent floods, but we can prevent them from turning into disasters. And this is why the letter N was dropped, and it should remain so. So when the General Assembly agreed to have this day for, I'm reluctant to use the word celebrate, to talk, to sensitize people about the need for disaster prevention, WMO was very, very happy with that. We were very happy because, unfortunately, about 90% of all natural hazards are related to weather, water, climate extremes. That's why, for my organization, for my community, disaster prevention is not only a priority, it is an obsession. I've been visiting many of your countries. I cannot remember a single mission where I've not been discussing with the authorities disaster prevention. Not a single one. Yesterday, I was in a country where we discussed disasters. In this part of the country, right now, the Med Service is not in a position to provide early warning. It is not. It doesn't have the facility. As a result, many people die who should not die. That was the reason for my mission when I got the phone call from Margareta. So disasters are affecting all countries, but the impact, as we all know, is even more disastrous in vulnerable countries and in particular developing and least developed countries. 2010, we were reminded by nature of natural hazards. Earthquake in Haiti, that was mentioned, in Chile, landslide floods in China, in Southeast Asia, exceptional floods in Pakistan, heat wave in many parts of Russia, Eastern Europe, and you have heard all that in all these things. Many people died. Many could have been saved. And this is why we have a duty to do even more. We have achieved a lot collectively, but we need to do even more. Back to ISDR. We are a major partner of ISDR, but I very much value, and I want to thank you, Margareta, the added value of ISDR to contribute to better coordination, not only in the UN system. By the way, ISDR is unique. It's not only UN. The Red Cross is there, many other partners. It's a very, very important forum for better coordinating our action, making us more effective. Over the last 50 years, the number of disasters has indeed increased significantly, probably by a factor 10 over the last 50 years, although difficult. We don't have very good statistics about it. During the same period, the economic damage due to disasters has increased by a factor about 50. However, the number of casualties, people dying from disasters, has decreased by a factor 10. Why? Because of early warnings, better integration of these early warnings in national disaster prevention plans. But still, too many people die, and we need to do more about it. The example of Haiti is definitely a striking example, where, by the way, it was an earthquake. It's not a meteorological disaster. However, as you know, we are now in the hurricane season. There's been heavy rain, and tents is not a good shelter during hurricane, but what else can you do? So it's very important that we get our action together to prevent more people from dying. So we are certainly extremely happy to contribute even more to the activities under the umbrella of ISDR. But I would like to mention something else, which was briefly mentioned. It's climate change. I think we should all be extremely worried about climate change. Climate change will indeed increase, and is already increasing, the frequency and the intensity of a number of natural disasters. You cannot prove that the heat wave over Russia was due to climate change. But what you know is that probably 150 years ago it would not have happened. And what we know is that it will happen more and more frequently in the future. We know that the floods in Pakistan will happen more and more frequently in the future. So the frequency of extreme events will increase with climate change. Many of you, and I need to thank all of you for your participation last year in the Third World Climate Conference. You remember that you unanimously decided to create a global framework for climate services. We are working very hard with all our partners to set that framework. We shall make proposal to WMO Congress next year in May. And as part of that, a major component has been identified as disaster prevention. That will be a major component of this global framework for global framework for climate services. So I don't want to take more of your time. I want to conclude, I would like to conclude here, but before concluding, let me give you one example, because the theme this year is very, very important. The city component is very important. Making city resilient, making my city safer, making my city ready. This is certainly a very important theme, and I would like to share with you something we did together with our colleagues from China. In anticipation of the Expo 2010, it was decided to set up a special project, hazard early warning system demonstration project for this city, covering all kinds of hazards. And this has been an incredibly successful project, which has been reported to our Executive Council, and which we shall use as an example for other big cities. Now, normally for birthdays, you want to celebrate, and you say, long life. I'm sorry, Margareta. I wish that in 10 years from now, we could celebrate the irrelevance of ISDR. However, unfortunately, I know that disaster hazards will still be around, and I'm sure that, unfortunately, we shall need ISDRs for many and many more years. We are committed to support ISDR. Thank you, Margareta.